I am so sad. My tails, my poor tails. Look at that. No. That's very broken. I was out in the woods a couple of days ago trying to film my new video that will be coming out soon. And I filmed it, so I'll just show you guys, I guess. Hi guys, welcome back to my Therian territory. You may call me Thorn. In today's video, I will be teaching you guys how to mend a broken tail. I am specifically talking about real fur tails in this case, so not faux fur tails. I'm sure there are other ways to mend broken faux fur tails, but these are very much real, and they are made of leather, and leather is quite vulnerable and can tear pretty easily. So if you're a little reckless with it, there's often a chance that you may accidentally break a tail, which is really annoying, and it sucks a lot because you just want to be able to wear your tail as if it's invincible, of course. Unfortunately, I've had this happen to me quite a couple of times actually, so I've learned over time how to sort of mend a tail. One has been fixed better than the other, kind of depending on how bad the damage was in the first place. Sometimes I have to throw away a tail because it's just not fixable at all anymore, or I just kind of keep the fur in case I want to craft something with it, but this is actually my favorite tail. Like, I haven't had this one for very long, but ever since I've had it, I have literally not worn a single other tail than this one, because it's just so perfect. So of course, again, in order to understand how to fix a tail, you will have to understand the anatomy of the tail. There's a leather strap that goes on the inside that has been scraped out before it was sold. Inside of it there used to be the tailbone as well as some flesh and blood, and that has been scraped off, and now what you have left is pretty much just normal leather with a lot of fur around it. So that means that if you want to mend a tail, you will have to open it up. This is something you can do quite easily from the top. You basically just have to kind of search for this strap. And if you separate it like this, you will open it up like so. This is the leather that I was talking about that's on the inside. And the look of it will depend on the quality of your tail. This isn't the best quality tail that I've had. And sometimes the seller even glues it shut, either because it is moldy and they just want to get rid of the tail, or because it's for protection. And I want to show you guys for a moment, there are different ways for tails like these to tear. There's pretty much three types of tears. You have the vertical ones where the leather has been torn vertically. You have the horizontal ones where the leather has been torn horizontally. And then the last one is a little more complicated, where the leather has actually really been torn to many pieces in many different ways, and those are often a lot harder to mend. For today's video, I will show you guys the first two examples, because this tail right here has been torn horizontally and this tail has been torn vertically. If you are a minor and you are open about owning tails, it might be more useful to ask your parents for help, as mending these types of tails can be quite complicated. You will need the following materials: either a piece of leather, gauze or mesh, some scissors, super glue, and preferably some clothespins. Let's start off with the horizontal tear. We will try the leather for this. You will be able to use the clothespins to pin the fur back, so that the leather on the inside can remain spread out. This is useful for different reasons, such as the leather being easier to glue and the overall material becoming slightly heavier to keep it in place. Take the piece of leather and try to estimate how big the piece is that you want to cut out. The leather must cover a good portion of both sides of the tear. You do not want to make too big of a piece either. Now put some super glue on one half of the piece of leather and paste it on one of the halves of the torn leather of the tail. Keep the two pieces together until you're sure it's stuck. Repeat the same step with the other half of the leather pieces, But keep in mind that you have to correctly close the gap by aligning the two torn pieces of leather of your tail accurately. The better you do this, the better the outcome. If there's still a gap between the two pieces while pasting the leather, you will still be able to see it here, and an ugly gap within the fur. Once the glue has dried, you can remove the clothing pins and check the result. There is a chance that the leather piece is too thick and may spread the leather of the tail apart. In this case, you can fold the piece of leather the same way as the tail's leather and then glue that shut. Once you're finished, you can always brush the fur with your hands so it will look a bit more natural again. Now let's continue with the vertical tear. For this tear, I will try out my mesh for the first time. This mesh is more like greasy gauze, which is the only thing I had on me at the moment, so I had to wash it with hand soap first to take off the grease. Be sure to dry the piece well if you have to do the same, as water barricades the effect of glue. Again, you can use the clothespin to spread out the leather. Please be extra careful not to tear the leather any further. Take the mesh and cut it to the correct size. Make sure to cover the whole area of leather. If the leather has been split in the middle, like with this tail, be sure to cut enough material to cover both the left and the right side of the leather. Otherwise, you may accidentally glue the tail in a twisted way, causing a sudden split in the fur pattern. Something that I did not keep into account is that glue, of course, penetrates through mesh. So be sure to glue one half of the mesh without folding the mesh up front. Luckily in my case, this didn't make much of a difference. Now paste the other side of the mesh against the other torn piece of leather, and again make sure that the two torn pieces of leather align accurately for a nicer result. Take off the clothing pins to help it dry up on the right place. And we're all done. Check out how the tails look good as new. It's taken some trial and error, but I did it. I fixed my tails. So you can never fix a tail so well that you will not be able to see that it was ever torn. However, you can still try to do your very best, and in my opinion, I think this one worked out really well. This side moves a lot easier than the upper part, so that part is a little easier to see. Like if I wiggle it like this, you can kind of tell, but when it comes to the shape, it's actually really well done in my opinion. This one, you can tell pretty well that it was torn. I have to admit, this is also because I had already tried to fix it before and it didn't really work out. And I might still try to, because the backside, as you can tell, is pretty open, so I might try to glue that together a little more in the future. But for now, I think actually that it's pretty fine. This is the overall look now. The gauze that I was working with was also kind of a trial. Like I wasn't entirely sure if it was going to work out, and I was actually ready to use the leather instead if it didn't. I've actually noticed that both methods, the gauze and the leather, have their good sides and their bad sides. The leather is a lot more flexible when you try to glue with it, so that means that this right here is a lot easier to bend right now because it's simply a leather strap that's attached to it, as opposed to the gauze that is now pretty much hardened because of the glue. But the downside of the leather is that it's pretty thick, and as you can tell, it does cause for the tail to, you know, blow up a little bit on the back side. And the gauze is a pretty thin material, so you will not have this issue at all when it comes to like it being too thick on the inside. I think personally that the leather will work the best, but it might be better to use a thinner piece of leather than this one, because in the end this is not the thinnest leather you can think of. Like you can get thinner leather than this, so the best way to go in my opinion is by using leather that is as thin as possible. But if you have gauze or mesh around, that should still work. Anyways, that was it for today. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and feel free to comment down below, and please subscribe if you want to see more in the future. I will be seeing you guys in my Therian territory in the next video. Bye. A massive thanks to my Therian territory members Alkura Wintermist, Basha Hex, Golanzo, Krillgod, Kristen Rubase, Morgan, Shadow the Wolf, Shire, Jobo Gamer, Obsidian, Oz, Thomas, Voilo, and Waita. Join the Therian Territory membership for early access, extra features and content, and more personal contact with me.